So there's this little patch of snow left on my lawn. It's like 2 feet by 3 feet square. All the rest of the snow is gone except for this little patch of snow. It's still there this morning. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, fuck, Winter. I mean, he's hanging on, old Winter. But I think in the next day or two, you'll be gone. This is a show about jewelry. Why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the Cannabis Goldsmith. Charms have been around a long time. Well over 100,000 years, apparently. I thought charms were like a recent invention. I thought, Queen Victoria, everyone thinks Queen Victoria is sort of popularized charms. Before then, there weren't any or whatever. But no. Charms have been around for over 100,000 years, which is like crazy if you think about it. But where do they come from? Where did they start out? What are they about anyway? Here's my theory. I'm going to explain my theory, my charm theory to you. And, you can take it with a pinch of salt or not. Here it is. So picture this. You're a Neanderthal. You're a prehistoric dude. Neanderthals weren't human, actually. So, and this comes into play later on. So remember that part. So anyway, you're a Neanderthal, Ned, and you're walking along in this forested area, and all of a sudden, trigger warning here, all of a sudden, out of the bushes, a cave tiger jumps out at you. Now, Neanderthals weren't the apex predators of the time. They were pretty much on equal footing, I think, with other apex predators like the cave tiger, the cave bear. They were all anything with cave in front of it. You don't want to fuck with it, right? So the caveman, the cave bear, the cave tiger. There was another one, cave lion or whatever. But anyway, any of these creatures living in caves, you don't want to fuck with these, right? So the Neanderthal is like walking along the path, going back to his little village, and out of the bushes, this cave tiger leaps out at him, and he tussles with this thing, and it's a fight to the death, right? Like it's either the tiger or him, and at the end of it, he's like lying on the ground. If you've ever seen that movie, The Revenant, when the bear attacks the guy, just that's what happened. And he's lying on the ground, but he's survived this cave tiger attack, and he's lying next to it on the ground. And he looks over and he sees the big claw, and he thinks, And he takes the claw and he's holding on to the claw, and he goes back to the village all like beaten and bloodied, holding up the claw saying, look, this is what happened, and he recounts to his fellow Neanderthals what the deal was and showing the claw, right? So then he thinks, I'm going to demonstrate this survival prowess, or the ability to take on these huge competitive predators and win with this claw. And so I've got this claw. I'm holding this claw wherever I go, showing it to people, saying, "Oh, look, this is. Have you heard about the cave tiger that I defeated?" And in the small village, after a while, everyone got sick of him. So So he stopped saying that. But anyway, so he thought, instead of just holding it everywhere I go, why don't I put a little hole in it and hang it off a leather thong strap thing around my neck? And that way I got hands free in case another cave tiger tries to come at me. So now he's starting to get the feeling now of this, and at once this becomes jewelry, and it also becomes a kind of a charm, because over this period he starts to think that he actually something happened, that not everybody can defeat these cave tigers, but somehow he did, and that makes him special. And the specialness is imbued in the charm that he's wearing, or it's symbolic of that whole experience, right? So people come to look at the charm as having his energy, or the energy of being able to defeat the cave tiger. So it gets imbued with that thing. So here you have a leather strap around Neanderthal Ned's neck with a kind of a claw, a cave tiger claw hanging off it. So you've probably even seen those kind of jewelry pieces before, out in the the tooths, or the small little horn pendants hanging on a leather strap. I mean, these are quite common. But I suspect this is the start of charms, and this is where charms came from. And this would be over 100,000 years ago. And these are not humans either. So we can say, I think, that charms weren't invented by humans, which is kind of freaky if you think about it. But back to old Ned, the Neanderthal. Is the H silent? I don't know. Anyway, Neanderthal Ned, he's wearing his amazing cave tiger claw pendant. He's getting all the Neanderthal babes now, because they look at this and they see the virility just fucking steaming off this thing, and they know that even though he only has one eye and it's hanging, dangling from his face as a result of the cave tiger attack, he still has this piece of jewelry around his neck that proves that a cave tiger, he conquered a cave tiger, this dude. So how hot is that, right? In Neanderthal culture. So you can see how these things start to happen. And then he comes to believe himself that this thing has power. It gets kind of imbued with this value that starts out as a kind of a spiritual overlay on an experience turned into a symbolic object. Now, if this makes no sense to you, it probably doesn't make any sense to me. I've just had an edible, so I might be rambling a bit here. But anyway, we can say that charms have Neolithic origins. They weren't invented by humans, probably. They found shells in southern Europe, like that recently too, little tiny shells that had holes drilled into them, like beads or whatever, that a thong was pushed through, right? So somebody was wearing these shells in the southern Europe, in the kind of, I guess, in the Cannes area, So like the Neanderthals were hanging out back then, making jewelry, and some of it is being found even now, like 100,000 years later. It's crazy. But they didn't start, humans didn't start working with metals and stuff until later. So the earliest charms were necklaces first, were hanging around the neck, right? And eventually people understood that you could take it and put it around the wrist, and that way your neck was free. It's hard to wear stuff around the neck, and especially in the early days, charms were not on chains, charm bracelets. they were on bangles, apparently. A solid piece of metal with, say, a bead put on it as a charm, right? And that was what a charm bracelet looked like. So if you've ever tried to wear a bangle, it can be difficult to wear a bangle sometimes because they're not really formed to your wrist, and they move around. And people love wearing bangles, but they're hard to wear. The idea of a chain came into being from the leather thong, something that had flexibility, and the charm got hooked onto that, and there you have charm bracelets surfacing. They go back when metal first started being worked. They go back then too, but they reflect the culture of whatever culture the charm was made in. So anyway, let's go back to the whole concept of charms. So a charm is there's two real types of charms. And there's an amulet, which is, think of it as the bug spray of charms. This is like protective. This is the thing that the bad energy, the cave tiger, the next cave tiger that's hiding in the bush, is going to see this claw hanging around your neck and realize that, they're not going to fuck with you. They won't. They'll fuck with someone else, but not you. So that's what an amulet is, right? It repels the cave tiger, keeps away the bad energies. So it's an object imbued with that power, either because, it came off a cave tiger, or because the person who wears it gives it that energy. All right? Another type of charm is a talisman. Now, you got to think of talismans are not, people don't refer to talismans a lot in the modern age, but they're a type of charm, and they're a magnetic charm. They draw things to you. They're meant to bring stuff towards you. So 2 types of charms, amulets, the bug spray of charms, and talismans, the magnets of charms. Now, how the hell did these get onto bracelets and stuff? Well, we just said they wound up on bracelets. People didn't want to wear stuff around their neck, or they wanted to use more parts of their body to wear more luck and stuff to give them luck or display their prowess as a survivor or hunter. Survivor probably became hunter with Ned. Yeah, But anyway, the whole idea now is about charms is that they have a spiritual or an energy component. Now, a lot of people who get charms as gifts may not believe that, right? So charms have to have another value too. They have to have a decorative or an art value. And I think a lot of the early charm creators understood that if they spent more time making the charm, it would be a better charm. It would serve that spiritual purpose better, but it would also be a better piece of art that would look nicer on a person. So anyway, everyone thinks that the charms came about because of Queen Victoria in the 1800s, this kind of dour, kind of English queen. She is said to have popularized charm bracelets because she wore a charm bracelet, and that sort of filtered down into the population. People started making cheaper versions of it to wear on themselves, and they liked the way it looked, and so this led to the idea of charm bracelets going into circulation in the culture. But I think if you look at even older culture, they've always been there, They've always been sort of floating around. When you get to the 1800s and you get to people being very skilled at working metal and precious metals and stuff, and mass production starting to come into fore, you start getting people wearing charms, less expensive charms for the public, and then super kind of luxe high-end charms, the kind of charms we make for the more well-off people. So So that's what's sort of split off. I mean, this always is the case. The super high end always has a place, and then the mainstream, it filters down from an experience like this, from a symbolic experience. Somebody says, "Oh, look at the queen and her cool bracelet. Looks like I can make something like that out of wood or whatever, or some cheaper material," and that gets circulated in the public and catches on almost fad-like and fans out through the culture. And then the culture, the bracelet designs start picking up stuff from the culture itself and not from the queen. So it starts soaking up, the design starts soaking up the cultural mood. And as a result, you get these charm bracelets that reflect what's going on at the time. The charm bracelets reflect wars. If World War I, you can see war themes. The charms themselves, like when I say charm bracelets, I mean it's just like a chain that goes around your wrist, and charms are attached to it with little rings, so you can add more or less or take them off or whatever. So Queen Victoria popularized the actual, like the chainy kind of charm bracelet that most of you are probably familiar with. But anyway, the charm bracelets, the charms on the bracelets, people started making different kinds of charms out of different metals, gold, silver, plastics, as plastics came out, and reflecting either like their own lives, like hearts. They were super popular charms, hearts for sweethearts or whatever. People who went off to wars, there would be little plaques with names engraved of these soldiers' names into the charm bracelet. That would show a kind of, a solidarity with the soldier, but at the same time, a charm that will bring him luck, right? Kind of this overlaid spiritual good luck thing. Here we have these amazing old things, right? Like 100,000. The idea is over 100,000 years old, going all the way back to Ned and his cave tiger experience. But now it's in the mainstream. People are starting to experiment with different charm bracelet designs. You'll see in the 30s and the 20s and, all the way up to now, there were different versions of charm bracelets. There were times when it was really popular in the culture, and then times when it's faded away. Like now, it's not popular at all. It's the idea that I like. I like this idea of reviving a charm bracelet and making it ours. Like I had this idea of, okay, let's take the charm bracelet idea and fuck with it. I want to make a bigger bracelet. There was a time, I guess if you go into like a store now, you might see little charms, tiny little charms. They're stamped out by the zillion in China. They're worthless, right? So the charms have sort of, I guess, lost their value as an object of desire. Or where's the luck in that, right? Where's the spiritual overlay if you go into the store and you buy one off the thing? It's lost a sort of a large chunk of its power. These mass-produced charms, they have no power. They're powerless, basically. That component is gone. So I thought, oh no, this idea is great. Like the idea of a charm bracelet is great, and I want to make one. I want to make a modern one, and I want to make one that relates to cannabis, which is the material we work in, we design from, and precious metal. So I started thinking about that, and man, the ideas are coming like crazy. You see, over the last 5 years, I've been making charms, cannabis-related charms, but not little tiny ones like you would see at your store or whatever. But these are huge and large ones, and I've been making them to use as pendants, really. But instead, we're going to use them on a huge charm bracelet. Now, I had this idea of there are two visual ways that a charm bracelet would look amazing today. And it's either really large charms and a smaller chain, or A small, almost invisible chain, you can't even see it because there are so many charms on the bracelet. But the charms would have to be smaller. There are charm bracelets like this that you can find, vintage ones. Collecting charms and charm bracelets is a thing. I don't know too much about it, but some of them are quite expensive. And the things to look for in them are quality of workmanship and the materials used. So gold ones or silver ones are going to be more expensive. And the quality of the work, if they're handmade, they're going to be worth more money. And if they're stamped out of a machine, they're not going to be worth so much money. But anyway, there's a book that I recommend. It's called Charms and Charm Bracelets. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's Charms and Charm Bracelets, The Complete Guide by Joanne Schwartz, and photographs by Robert N. Schwartz, who I suspect is related. Anyway, it's a Schiffer book for collectors. I think it's like a 20-year-old hardcover book. You can get it probably from your library or even from the publisher. Look for it, Charms and Charm Bracelets. Anyway, if you are interested in a detailed history of what charms look like, the photography in it is amazing, and you'll get to see how charms change over time and how they reflect the culture. You'll get to see pictures of what that looks like. But trust me, charms are sponges that pick up the culture and reflect it back at us. But they also protect us from cave tigers, so keep that in mind, or they should. So here I'm thinking I'm going to make a charm bracelet. You can either go super huge with charms, and then you have to use a bigger, heavier chain because this is going to be heavy, right? So that's, I think, the direction I'm going with this. I'm going to use one of our big, heavy sterling silver raver chains. The links are massive. They're the size of like wedding bands, these links on this chain. And then you're going to need a link that big to support the weight of the charms, because these charms are not like little tiny charms you would get at some shop, mass-produced things. These are like an inch and a half in length, right? So they're big and they're heavy. It's not going to be something practical to wear this piece, this charm bracelet, but it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And just like, I can, if you're got a short sleeve and you have this hanging on your wrist, it'll be so heavy. It's just going to be like, it'll want to come off your hand, right? But it'll hang low. It's just going to look amazing. Or if you're wearing a suit and it just peeks out under the suit cuff by your wrist, right? Holy shit, this is going to look so good. I'm like so excited about this design. I can see it already actually in my mind. It's like a thick, heavy chain, and off the chain, cannabis, a cannabis bud, a small silver bong, a cannabis leaf, a live cast cannabis leaf. These are the kind of charms that are going to be on it, right? Maybe another pipe, some kind of water pipe. Maybe, another leaf. Maybe a small blowtorch, like all these kind of weird sort of cannabis themed, or maybe even maybe I could even put some of our psilocybe mushrooms, cast them in gold or sterling silver and put one of those on there. A drug-themed charm bracelet. Totally, like absolutely drugs. Like, why not? It's not that I want people to do drugs, but they're sweeping through the culture, right? So I'm hoping to bring the culture back into the jewelry piece. So as cannabis gets more and more legalized around North America and the various jurisdictions and around the world, it's culturally relevant. So I'm going to build a jewelry piece to reflect that, and I think this is going to be just incredible. Now, who would wear this piece? That's the other thing. I would think maybe somebody like Madonna could wear it, or somebody a strong musician could wear this, or a hip hop dude could wear this easily. I mean, it's gender neutral. It's totally gender neutral, but it would be strong, like say under the cuff of a man's suit, of a nice crisp man's suit, or just hanging off the wrist at like some cocktail party with just a t-shirt. It would look just insane. So this, I've decided I'm going to make this, and over the last 5 years, I've been making the charms already. I've got most of them made. I just have to do maybe a mushroom and maybe a live leaf cast to make a nice leaf to hang on this thing. But the idea of this piece also is that, I'm going to use these little carabiners, that mountain climbers use, but little tiny ones in sterling silver. So you'll be able to clip these charms on and off the chain, so that way you could wear the chain bare if you wanted to, and or wear one charm on it, or multiples, or whatever you want to do, right? Or bring your own charms too. But this is absolutely not practical. This is not for mass production. This is like a crazy art sculptural cannabis themed jewelry piece, and I'm going to be making it, putting it together in the next month. I've got another one that I thought about too that I want to do called Aliens, with alien spacecraft and little gray alien heads and shit, and it's going to be just so funny, because you see, these things are happening in the culture, and they need to get reflected in the jewelry. So we're going to do it. We're Tribe. I mean, we're hacking through the undergrowth with like a machete, going towards a brighter future here. We're making jewelry pieces that are culturally relevant, that matter. And we're having fun doing it too. I got to tell you, it's like the person who buys this giant drugs charm bracelet will have a sense of humor. I know, Anyway, that's it for me. This week, the Cannabis Goldsmith. Did I say everything about the charms that I wanted to do? I just sort of rambled. This. There's no edits. This is straight up live take to tape or whatever. Okay, let's see. I've written down a bunch of notes here. No, I think I covered pretty much everything. Hey, how about that? If not, whatever. We'll get to it again at some point, probably. Next week, I don't know what I want to talk to you all about, but it's supposed to be like summer today. I'm so excited about growing 4 plants, which we can do in Canada here. This year, I've picked out my 4 plants to grow. One is a KwaZulu Natal. It's a sativa dominant plant. There's another one, a Congo plant, which is also a sativa. I've had problems trying to grow it. It's to get it even to a seedling stage. It's just the seed must be older. And then what else? Oh, a green crack. And that's pretty much it, I think. That's 4 of them. There's one that's on its way out now that we're using for casting, and that's that. Next week, I'm going to have to move the studio to the workshop, because where it is now, in this area of Ontario, the weather warms up and all the people come up from the States, the campers and their Winnebagos, and they're starting to come now because it's such a beautiful area of Ontario, of Canada here, and along the St. Lawrence River, that people come up and they enjoy it for the summer. And they should too, but it's loud to record sometimes, especially when the big fat Harleys come by. You get a herd of those suckers coming past, and you'll hear it on the mic for sure. So I think I'm going to have to move the studio in to the workshop and put like sound baffles and stuff up so that I can record some clean audio. That's it for me. Have a great week, and I'll see you on Wednesday. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. Tribe is a registered trademark used under license. If you want to see what we do, go to tribe.ca. on the web. That's our homepage, tribe.ca. The CA stands for Canada. We're a Canadian company based in Ontario. Send me an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.